Franklin gently hit the table. Enough. This is out of control. You are disrespecting us. Respect? I repeated. How interesting that you use that word now. Where was your respect when your wife asked if my salary was enough to live on? Where was it when she suggested I was a burden to my son? Where was it when she offered to buy me off so I disappear? Franklin clenched his jaw. Veronica just wanted to help, I corrected her. Veronica wanted to control. She wanted to ensure that the poor mother wouldn't ruin her daughter's perfect image. She wanted to eliminate the weak link in the chain. The problem is, she chose the wrong link. I looked at Simone. Her head was bowed, her hands in her lap, trembling. Simone, I said softly. She looked up. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that my parents don't finish that sentence. I interrupted her. Because you did know. Maybe you didn't know about my money, but you knew how your parents are. You know how they treat people they consider inferior, and you did nothing to stop them. Simone sobbed. I wanted to say something, but they are my parents. I know, I replied, and Marcus is my son. And yet I let him make his own decisions. I let him choose his life, his wife, his path, because that is how you love. With freedom, not with control, not with money, not with manipulation. Marcus came closer to me. Mom, forgive me. Please forgive me for never asking, for assuming, for thinking you were. His voice cracked. I hugged him. You don't have to apologize, son. I did what I did for a reason. I wanted you to be independent, to value the right things, not to depend on me financially, to build your own life. But you made me feel like I had to protect you. Marcus said that I had to worry about you, that you were fragile. I know, I replied, and it wasn't wrong that you thought that because that's how you learn to care, to worry about others, to be empathetic. Those are lessons money can't buy. Marcus hugged me tightly. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Veronica was still standing, rigid, watching the scene with a mixture of confusion and contained rage. This doesn't change anything, she finally said. You lied. You deceived us. You came here with hidden intentions. You acted in bad faith. That's true, I nodded. I acted. I pretended to be something I'm not. Exactly what you do every day. What is that supposed to mean? Franklin asked. It means that you hide behind your money, behind your jewels, behind your trips, behind everything you can buy. But inside you are empty. You don't have deep conversations. You don't have real interests. You have nothing to offer beyond a bank account. Veronica gave a dry, bitter laugh. Coming from someone who lied all night, that's hypocrisy. Perhaps, I replied, but my lie exposed the truth, your truth. And now you can't hide. Now you know that I saw you, that I felt every comment, that I stored every insult disguised as advice, and that I will never forget it. The restaurant fell silent for a moment, as if even the waiters could feel the tension in the air. Veronica's face had lost its usual color, replaced with a mix of shock and anger. Franklin's jaw was tight, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the table. I calmly folded my hands in front of me, exuding a patience that seemed to irritate them even more. You've crossed a line, Veronica spat. You humiliated us in front of everyone. This is unacceptable. I leaned back, letting the words sink in. Humiliated? No, Veronica. I revealed the truth. Something you have avoided facing your whole life. You measure people by wealth, by appearances, by power. But real life doesn't work that way. And tonight you've been reminded of that. Franklin's face turned red. You think money isn't important? You think our success means nothing? I think it means nothing if it comes at the cost of decency, compassion, and understanding, I said softly but firmly. You've accumulated wealth, yes, but what have you accumulated in your hearts? What have you accumulated in your relationships? Happiness, peace, love, or just trophies, numbers, and empty victories? Veronica's eyes narrowed. You've gone too far. I will not forgive this. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I replied. I'm asking for awareness. I'm asking you to see what you've missed while counting your millions. Life is not about possession. It's about connection. Simone shifted in her seat, still trembling. Her hands clutched her purse. I looked at her and smiled gently. Simone, you've been silent too long. You've watched this play out, believing that obedience equaled love. But love is in control. It isn't fear. It isn't measuring worth with money. You saw it tonight. Her voice cracked as she whispered, I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know I could. You can, I said, keeping my tone calm. And tonight is the proof. The waiter arrived with the check. Veronica glanced at it nervously, clearly thinking I would pay without question. I smiled. Let's split it, I said, surprising them. Each of us pays for ourselves. That's fair, isn't it? Franklin opened his mouth to argue, but I held up a hand. No, this is simple, fair, honest, something you've both struggled with. Simone's eyes welled up. Mom, she whispered to me, I thank you for showing me, for standing up. I don't want to live like them anymore. Her words hit Franklin and Veronica like a cold slap. They could sense the shift, their control slipping away. Veronica's mouth opened, closed, and opened again, but no words came. Franklin looked furious, but he was powerless in that moment. The power they once thought they had over their daughter, over me, over Marcus, it had evaporated. Simone continued, her voice steadier now. I want to live differently. I want to love differently. I want my life to mean more than appearances and wealth. I want real connection, real understanding, real life. Franklin finally spoke, his voice sharp and tense. You don't understand. You'll regret this someday. You'll see the value of what we've given you. Simone shook her head. No, I will not. I see it now. What you've given me doesn't matter. How I live, how I love, how I treat people, that matters. That is wealth. That is legacy. I nodded at her. Exactly. And your parents, they can choose to continue their way, but you, your life, your choices, they are yours to shape. Veronica's face twisted in frustration. This isn't over. You will pay for this humiliation. I smiled faintly, calm as ever. No, Veronica, this is just the beginning of understanding, if you're willing to see it. But if not, then it's your life to live and mine to live mine, in peace. Simone reached for my hand, holding it tightly. Thank you, she said, for everything. For protecting me, even if I didn't know I needed it. I squeezed her hand. That's what family should be. Support, honesty, respect, not fear or control, not manipulation. Tonight was a lesson for all of us. The air between us shifted. Simone sat taller, more certain. Franklin and Veronica sat rigid, struggling with feelings they had never been forced to confront. And in that restaurant, amidst tension and quiet revelation, something important happened. The truth had been spoken, and truth, no matter how hard, cannot be undone. 3 days passed in silence. 3 days of reflection, of quiet processing, and of subtle tension lingering in the corners of my home. I stayed busy, organizing my thoughts, reliving the restaurant scene over and over, analyzing every word, every glance. The encounter had left a mark. not just on them, but on me. It was as though a weight had lifted, though the residue of old patterns still hovered. On the third afternoon, a knock came at the door. My heart recognized it before I opened my eyes fully. Simone. She stood there, in plain clothes, hair tied back, no makeup, shoes scuffed from walking, but eyes clear and determined. Not the woman molded by her parents' expectations, not the polished image I'd met before, but Simone herself, vulnerable, real, and willing. "Mother-in-law," she said softly, her voice almost breaking. "May I come in?" "Of course," I replied, stepping aside. She entered slowly, taking in the apartment. My modest living room, the mismatched furniture, the walls bare of expensive paintings. It was simple, honest, grounded. She sat on the sofa, careful, almost reverent. I settled across from her, waiting. No pressure, no rush, just space for her words to find their way. "I don't know where to start," she admitted finally. "Start where you feel ready," I said. Her fingers twisted the edge of her purse. "I came to apologize," she began, "but not just with words. I came to explain, to help you understand my parents, why they are the way they are, and why I stayed silent for so long." I nodded. "I'm listening." She exhaled, as if releasing years of tension in a single breath. "My parents grew up poor, truly poor. Small town overseas, no electricity, no running water, working from sunrise to sunset. They saw their parents die young, saw hunger, suffering, desperation, and they swore they would never go back there." "I understand," I said quietly. "Trauma can shape people in ways that aren't always healthy." "Yes," she whispered. "That explains a lot. They worked tirelessly, saved every penny, built their lives from nothing. And when they started earning, they never forgot. But in their fear of poverty, they lost sight of humanity. They measured life by money because money meant survival, safety, security. To them, it is the only truth. And that shaped you," I said softly. "You learned silence and obedience to survive." She nodded, eyes glistening. "I did. I accepted their rules, even when it hurt. Even when I disagreed. I thought loyalty meant submission, that love meant compliance. But that night at the restaurant, you showed me another way. You showed me honesty, courage, and dignity." Her voice trembled, yet carried conviction. I realized I don't want to live under fear or expectations. I don't want my children someday to inherit that mindset. I want a different life, a life where people are valued for who they are, not what they own. I reached out, placing a hand over hers. "Simone, the path isn't easy. You'll face judgment, resistance, even anger. But the only way to live truly is to follow your compass, to live aligned with values, not fear or appearances." She exhaled, a small, hopeful smile breaking through. "I want to try, not just for Marcus, but for myself. I want peace, not pressure, love, not control." "That's the first step," I said. "Little by little, question habits, purchases, motivations. Ask yourself, does this bring me peace or am I living for others? Does this choice reflect who I am or what I'm told to be?" Her gaze sharpened, determination growing. "And my parents?" she asked cautiously. "Will they ever understand?" I met her eyes. "I don't know. Change requires recognition, and some never see the need. But your life is yours. You can break the cycle. You can live differently." "I will," she promised, a fierceness now blending with vulnerability. "With Marcus's support and the lessons I've learned tonight. I want to be better. I need to be better." I smiled softly, letting the weight of the moment sink in. Your guidance is already within you. Trust yourself. Listen to your inner voice. That voice you silenced to please them. It's time to honor it. Simone wiped her tears, her posture straightening, her spirit lifting. Thank you, she said, for showing me there's a life beyond fear and wealth, beyond expectation and control. I squeezed her hand gently. And when you have children, teach them the value of people, not possessions. Teach empathy, humility, and kindness, things money cannot buy, but that define true wealth. I promise, she said, with all the sincerity of someone finally awake to truth. We sat together in that modest apartment, two women connected by honesty and understanding, as the late afternoon sun filtered through the window. A quiet peace settled between us, one earned through courage, reflection, and the willingness to confront truth. The next few days were different. The silence between Simone and her parents was heavy, almost tangible, but it no longer weighed on her in the same way. She moved through her home with a newfound clarity, her steps purposeful rather than tentative. Marcus noticed the change immediately. His wife no longer flinched at calls or messages from Veronica and Franklin. She had boundaries now, invisible yet firm, woven with the lessons of honesty and self-respect. Simone began to articulate what she had learned, first to herself, then to Marcus. I can love my parents without letting them control me, she said one morning over breakfast. I can care about them without sacrificing my own peace. I can acknowledge their struggles without excusing their cruelty. Marcus nodded, his eyes warm with pride. That's right. You're not responsible for their happiness or their approval. You're responsible for yours. And so, together, they drafted the boundaries. No more unsolicited advice, no more financial manipulation, no more guilt-laden comments disguised as concern. They decided that if Veronica or Franklin wanted a place in their lives, it would have to be on these terms: respect for decisions, respect for their marriage, and respect for their autonomy. Anything less would mean distance, and distance was now a tool, not a punishment. When Simone finally communicated this to her parents, the reaction was immediate, fierce, and predictable. Veronica, sharp and unforgiving, accused Simone of ingratitude. After everything we've done for you, she cried over the phone, voice cracking with a mixture of hurt and rage. We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us? Franklin, colder, more calculated, threatened financial withdrawal. If you turn away from us, you turn away from the life we've built for you. Don't forget who put you where you are. Simone listened. She had rehearsed this moment countless times in her mind, and now, faced with it, she felt an unusual calm. The fear that had once gripped her chest was gone, replaced by a clarity forged in honesty and self-respect. I'm not turning away from you, she said steadily. I'm turning towards a life that is mine to live. I will respect you, and I ask that you respect me. That is all. The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. But Simone did not flinch. She realized that the discomfort she felt was not hers to carry. It was the echo of their inability to see beyond their worldview. And for the first time, she didn't try to fix it for them. She simply let it be. Over the following weeks, the tension remained, but it no longer dictated her emotions. Simone and Marcus cultivated their own space, free from the constant pressure of approval. Dinner conversations became about shared dreams, small victories, and plans for the future. They laughed more freely, debated ideas without fear, and held each other accountable in love rather than in fear. Simone herself began to notice subtle changes within. She no longer measured her worth by her parents' approval or their standards. She could purchase what she wanted without guilt, decline what she didn't need without apology, and express her opinion without anxiety. Each small victory felt like reclaiming a piece of herself that had been hidden for years. One afternoon, Simone and I met for coffee, and she shared these reflections. I didn't realize how much silence and compliance had cost me, she said. The energy spent on pleasing others, the fear of being wrong, the constant self-questioning. It was exhausting. Now I feel like I can breathe again, like I found myself after years of hiding. I smiled, proud but not surprised. That's the power of boundaries and self-honesty. Once you see the world for what it is and define your own principles, you can live with dignity, regardless of what anyone else does or thinks. She nodded, her eyes shining. I want to continue learning. I want to be someone who brings peace, not pressure. Someone who teaches love, not fear. Someone who builds relationships based on respect, not expectation. That's a lifelong journey, I said, but you've taken the first step, and that matters more than any amount of money or approval. Simone left that day with a lighter heart, the edges of her past still present but softened. Marcus waited for her at the door, and together they walked through the city streets hand in hand. She felt freedom in her chest, a quiet strength she hadn't known existed. For the first time, she realized that living authentically didn't require permission, approval, or inheritance. It required courage, reflection, and the willingness to stand firm in one's truth. And as the sun set behind the skyline, painting the buildings in gold and rose, she knew she had stepped into a life that was hers entirely, rich in dignity, love, and peace. Days turned into weeks, and Simone's transformation became more apparent with each passing moment. The tension that once clung to her like a second skin had lifted, replaced by a sense of calm authority. Marcus noticed it immediately, the way she moved through life now with confidence rather than caution. Even small tasks, once weighted with fear of judgment or criticism, became exercises in autonomy and joy. One evening, as Simone and I sat on my balcony watching the city lights flicker like fireflies, she reflected on her parents' wealth. You know, she began softly, I used to think that having money meant having power, freedom, and happiness, that it could solve everything. But now I see that's only a surface. My parents have everything money can buy, yet they don't enjoy a single thing. They are rich in possessions, but poor in life, in peace, in love. I nodded. True wealth isn't in numbers or material possessions. It's in how you feel about yourself, the connections you nurture, and the integrity you maintain. You can have millions and still be empty, or have little and feel fulfilled. It's all about perspective and choice. Simone smiled, a soft, genuine curve of her lips. I've started writing a journal, she said, pulling a small notebook from her bag. Every night, I reflect on what I did that day, how I treated others, what made me feel at peace. It's helping me track my growth, my mistakes, my moments of clarity. I don't want to forget this journey. I don't want to go back to living on autopilot, just reacting to fear and expectation. That's an excellent practice, I said. Reflection solidifies change. It keeps you aware of your intentions and ensures that you are steering your life, not letting it steer you. Simone's eyes glimmered in the soft balcony light. I even find myself forgiving my parents. Not for them, but for me. For all the years I carried the weight of their expectations and criticism. It's liberating to let it go, to recognize their flaws without letting them define me. I can respect them without being ruled by them. That's wisdom, I replied. Not everyone reaches that point. Most people either stay trapped in resentment or dissolve into obedience. You found a balance, acknowledging reality while protecting your own life and happiness. Marcus joined us later that evening, bringing 2 cups of tea. He sat beside Simone, taking her hand gently. She's right, he said. I've noticed it too. You're free, Simone. Not reckless, not disconnected, just free to be yourself. And that freedom gives me peace too. Simone leaned her head on his shoulder. I never realized how much I needed that. How much I needed to reclaim my own voice, my own choices. It's like breathing for the first time after years underwater. We sat in silence for a while, the city stretching before us, alive with energy yet somehow distant, as if it belonged to someone else. Simone's transformation was quiet, subtle, yet profound. It wasn't about drama or grand gestures. It was about reclaiming a life of integrity, meaning, and authentic connection. Later, when she recounted her experience with her parents, she said something that struck me deeply. They may never understand my choices, and that's their loss. But I've learned that I can't live my life according to someone else's approval. I can only live according to my own principles, guided by love, respect, and honesty. I smiled, a warmth spreading through me. Exactly. And you've also learned that wealth without values is meaningless, and power without compassion is hollow. Your parents' millions do not define them, nor do they define you. You are defined by your actions, your heart, and your courage. Simone nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the journey she had undergone. I want to continue building a life like that, with Marcus, and maybe one day with children of my own. A life where love is not transactional, where respect is mutual, and where peace is cultivated intentionally every day. That's beautiful, I said, and it's possible as long as you continue being mindful, reflective, and honest. Remember, the journey never really ends, but each conscious step makes it richer and more fulfilling. As we watched the sky deepen into night, Simone's eyes sparkled with a quiet determination. She was no longer a daughter shadowed by expectation. She was a woman reclaiming her life, her power, and her peace. And in that moment, it was clear that true wealth, richness of spirit, authenticity, and love was hers to keep forever. Weeks passed, and Simone's transformation continued to unfold in ways that surprised even her. The tension she had carried for years had softened, replaced by a calm sense of purpose. She began making small but deliberate choices that reflected her values rather than the expectations of her parents. One morning, she called me, her voice brimming with excitement. Mother-in-law, I did something yesterday that I never imagined I could do. I raised an eyebrow, as intrigued. Oh? Tell me. I said no to my father, to Franklin. He asked me to join a high-profile event that he insisted I attend to represent the family. Usually I would have gone, silently, feeling guilty, worried, anxious. But yesterday, I told him no. I explained politely but firmly that I had other plans that mattered to me, and that I wanted to prioritize my own life, my own growth. And you know what? I felt liberated. I smiled, proud of her. That's a huge step, Simone. Setting boundaries is never easy, especially when you've spent a lifetime conditioned to obey. How did he respond? Simona laughed softly, a light, free sound. He was shocked. Honestly, I think he's still processing it. Veronica, of course, tried to guilt me, said I was ungrateful, but I didn't respond with anger or defensiveness. I simply acknowledged her feelings and reiterated my choice. It felt strange at first, not to react, but also empowering. I realized I could respect them without sacrificing myself. Exactly, I said. That's the essence of mature relationships. Respect without submission, love without losing yourself. You are learning the art of self-respect, which is far more valuable than compliance or approval. Simone's tone softened. I've also started noticing how much control I unconsciously let others have over me. Every small decision, what I wore, what I said, even how I thought about money, was influenced by their standards. And now I'm reclaiming all of that. Slowly, carefully, but deliberately. It's like stepping out of a shadow I didn't even realize I was living under. I nodded, understanding completely. Awareness is the first step. Once you see the patterns, you can choose which ones to keep and which ones to release. That's real freedom. And it sounds like you're already making progress. Simone took a deep breath, as if exhaling years of tension. I've also started mentoring others quietly, people at work who struggle with similar pressures. I realized that by sharing my experiences, by being honest about my journey, I can help them recognize their own worth. It feels powerful and meaningful, like I'm finally using my struggles for something positive. That's beautiful, Simone, I said warmly. Wisdom gains its power not by being hoarded, but by being shared. By lifting others, you reinforce your own growth and integrity. You're creating a ripple effect. She smiled, her eyes shining with determination. I want to continue this path. I want to build a life where choices come from love, clarity, and purpose, not fear, comparison, or greed. I want to teach Marcus and our future children to value kindness, humility, and honesty above all else. To measure life not by wealth, but by moments, by relationships, by peace. I placed my hand over hers. And you will, Simone. This is exactly why I welcomed you that day. Not to change you forcefully, but to remind you that you already had the strength to make these choices. Sometimes we need someone to reflect back to us what we already know but have forgotten. A long silence followed, filled with quiet understanding. The city hummed around us, but in our little space, there was calm, a sense of resolution and possibility. Simone's journey wasn't finished. She knew that. But she had claimed ownership of her life in ways that would endure for years to come. Before she left that evening, she hugged me tightly. Thank you, she whispered, not just for listening, but for showing me that peace is possible, that life can be rich in ways money cannot buy, that courage can be quiet, and strength can be gentle. I held her close, my heart full. You've always had it in you, Simone. I only helped you remember. Now go, live it fully, and never forget, real wealth is measured by love, integrity, and freedom of spirit. As she walked out, I realized something profound. True teaching isn't about dictating or controlling. It's about guiding, witnessing, and reflecting back what someone needs to see. Simone's liberation was now real, tangible, and unstoppable. And as I closed the door, I smiled, knowing that peace, authenticity, and courage had found a new home in her heart. The days that followed felt lighter, almost surreal in their simplicity. Simone's visits became less about apology and more about connection. Genuine, unhurried conversations that often stretched late into the evening. We talked about everything: values, fears, dreams, mistakes, and lessons learned. Every conversation seemed to peel away layers of tension she had carried for years, leaving behind a clearer, more confident version of herself. One evening, she arrived with a small notebook. "I've started journaling," she said, a shy smile crossing her face. "Every morning, I write down my intentions, the choices I want to make, the habits I want to break. And every night, I reflect on what went well and what challenged me. It's liberating." I leaned back, intrigued. Journaling can be a powerful tool. It forces you to face your thoughts honestly, to see patterns, to acknowledge growth. "How do you feel after doing it for a few weeks?" "I feel lighter and more aware." I catch myself before reacting impulsively, before letting old fears control me. I'm slowly learning that my worth isn't tied to approval or money. It's in my choices, my actions, the way I treat people, and how I honor my own values. I nodded. That awareness is priceless. You're essentially rewriting the narrative of your life. Every habit you question, every thought you challenge, strengthens your sense of self. And that is the foundation of true freedom. Simone's smile grew, more confident now. I've also started noticing how much Marcus has changed because of this. He's happier, calmer. Our relationship feels more genuine, less influenced by fear or expectations, and more by love and respect. I didn't realize how much my parents' influence had seeped into our lives until now. Seeing Marcus liberated from that subtle pressure is incredible. "That's the ripple effect again," I said. "By changing yourself, you change everyone around you. You're breaking cycles, Simone. Generational patterns of control and judgment don't have to define your family. You're choosing a new path." Her eyes shone with determination. "I want to make sure Marcus and I raise our children differently. I want them to grow up knowing that their value is not in wealth or appearance, but in integrity, compassion, and authenticity. I want them to know that it's okay to fail, to make mistakes, and to learn without fear of judgment. That's what I missed, and I won't let them miss it." I reached out, touching her hand gently. "You're building something far more important than money or social status. You're building a legacy of character, strength, and love. And that, Simone, is priceless." A contemplative silence fell between us. The evening sun filtered through the curtains, casting warm, golden light over the room. Simone seemed to absorb it, as if letting it fill the empty spaces that had been left by years of pressure and control. "Mother-in-law," she said softly, "I never realized how much I needed to see your life to understand what I wanted for myself. Not just for Marcus, not just for me, but for our future family. Watching you navigate life with honesty, dignity, and grace, it gave me hope that I can do the same." "You can," I replied simply. "But remember, it's a lifelong process. You'll have days of doubt, days when old fears resurface. That's normal. The key is not to avoid those days, but to face them consciously, with awareness and intention. Every time you do, you strengthen your internal compass, your sense of who you are and what you stand for." Simone nodded, absorbing every word. "I want to keep learning, to keep growing, and to keep applying these lessons every day. Not for approval, not for anyone else, just for me. I want my life to reflect the values I truly believe in, not the ones forced upon me by others. And that, Simone," I said, "is the essence of true freedom. To live without fear, without pretense, guided only by your principles and heart. To make peace with your past and reclaim your present. And when you do that, happiness, contentment, and true wealth follow naturally." She smiled, a serene, quiet smile, full of promise. Thank you for showing me that possibility, for reminding me that I can be strong without being cruel, powerful without being controlling, and rich without needing approval, that life can be abundant in ways money cannot buy. As she left that evening, I watched her walk away, realizing how far she had come. The weight that had once burdened her shoulders seemed lifted. There was a newfound confidence in her step, a calm strength in her presence. Simone wasn't just visiting my home anymore. She was stepping into her own life, fully, consciously, and authentically. The days that followed felt lighter, almost surreal in their simplicity. Simone's visits became less about apology and more about connection. Genuine, unhurried conversations that often stretched late into the evening. We talked about everything: values, fears, dreams, mistakes, and lessons learned. Every conversation seemed to peel away layers of tension she had carried for years, leaving behind a clearer, more confident version of herself. One evening, she arrived with a small notebook. "I've started journaling," she said, a shy smile crossing her face. "Every morning, I write down my intentions, the choices I want to make, the habits I want to break. And every night, I reflect on what went well and what challenged me. It's liberating." I leaned back, intrigued. Journaling can be a powerful tool. It forces you to face your thoughts honestly, to see patterns, to acknowledge growth. How do you feel after doing it for a few weeks? I feel lighter and more aware. I catch myself before reacting impulsively, before letting old fears control me. I'm slowly learning that my worth isn't tied to approval or money. It's in my choices, my actions, the way I treat people, and how I honor my own values. I nodded. That awareness is priceless. You're essentially rewriting the narrative of your life. Every habit you question, every thought you challenge, strengthens your sense of self. And that is the foundation of true freedom. Simone's smile grew, more confident now. I've also started noticing how much Marcus has changed because of this. He's happier, calmer. Our relationship feels more genuine, less influenced by fear or expectations, and more by love and respect. I didn't realize how much my parents' influence had seeped into our lives until now. Seeing Marcus liberated from that subtle pressure is incredible. "That's the ripple effect again," I said. "By changing yourself, you change everyone around you. You're breaking cycles, Simone. Generational patterns of control and judgment don't have to define your family. You're choosing a new path." Her eyes shone with determination. "I want to make sure Marcus and I raise our children differently. I want them to grow up knowing that their value is not in wealth or appearance, but in integrity, compassion, and authenticity. I want them to know that it's okay to fail, to make mistakes, and to learn without fear of judgment. That's what I missed, and I won't let them miss it." I reached out, touching her hand gently. "You're building something far more important than money or social status. You're building a legacy of character, strength, and love. And that, Simone, is priceless." A contemplative silence fell between us. The evening sun filtered through the curtains, casting warm, golden light over the room. Simone seemed to absorb it, as if letting it fill the empty spaces that had been left by years of pressure and control. "Mother-in-law," she said softly, "I never realized how much I needed to see your life to understand what I wanted for myself. Not just for Marcus, not just for me, but for our future family. Watching you navigate life with honesty, dignity, and grace, it gave me hope that I can do the same." "You can," I replied simply, But remember, it's a lifelong process. You'll have days of doubt, days when old fears resurface. That's normal. The key is not to avoid those days, but to face them consciously, with awareness and intention. Every time you do, you strengthen your internal compass, your sense of who you are and what you stand for. Simone nodded, absorbing every word. I want to keep learning, to keep growing, and to keep applying these lessons every day. Not for approval, not for anyone else, just for me. I want my life to reflect the values I truly believe in, not the ones forced upon me by others. And that, Simone, I said, is the essence of true freedom. To live without fear, without pretense, guided only by your principles and heart. To make peace with your past and reclaim your present. And when you do that, happiness, contentment, and true wealth follow naturally. She smiled, a serene, quiet smile, full of promise. Thank you for showing me that possibility, for reminding me that I can be strong without being cruel, powerful without being controlling, and rich without needing approval, that life can be abundant in ways money cannot buy. As she left that evening, I watched her walk away, realizing how far she had come. The weight that had once burdened her shoulders seemed lifted. There was a newfound confidence in her step, a calm strength in her presence. Simone wasn't just visiting my home anymore. She was stepping into her own life, fully, consciously, and authentically.